These newspaper article readings are not for the faint-hearted or the squeamish. If you're at all sensitive, I might suggest these aren't for you. If in doubt, check the description below. It'll tell you which topics are covered in this particular episode. There's both human and animal suicides, and you heard that right. There's also horrific descriptions of injuries, as well as the deaths of youngsters. So don't do it to yourself if you're prone to nightmares, is all I'll say right now. Not all the articles are horrible. Some of them are uplifting, some of them show incredible bravery and heroism. There are near misses. So these were picked as showing life prior to health and safety, as well as for the crazy and curious details some contain, with other miscellaneous happenings that kind of struck me enough to post the articles to Twitter, despite not having too much relevance to Scotland necessarily. These are worldwide topics, and they didn't have any real connection to the projects I was working on and researching at the time. I just happened to have come across them by the way, kind of thing. So we'll get into them, shall we? What we're going to do here is we're going to do a lucky dip of newspaper articles to really mix them up a wee bit, because while I'm doing the researches, I'm obviously coming up with the same kind of terms and things. So we'll mix them up even further. So to that end, I have all of the newspaper titles and dates of the articles. Okay, let's see what the cat has for us today. Oh, we're starting with a double duncher. Dundee Evening Telegraph, the 19th of April 1907, followed by the Scotsman for the 23rd of April 1907. We'll see what this has. I had mentioned in a previous episode, it was an article detailing how a woman had been bound up with ropes with a handkerchief bound around her mouth, during a robbery on her workplace. Like, she was found in a locked room bound up like this, and I think I'd said it was like something straight out of a movie, but that obviously cinema and filmmaking was in its very early stages. I think that story came from 1906. So here we actually have an article about an attempt to make a film that it didn't go entirely, as they had hoped. It's entitled The Down Express, a Living Picture Plot. The public appetite for thrilling accidents depicted by the cinematograph has steadily grown during the last year or two, and the companies who cater for this kind of entertainment have not been slow to feed it. Storms, accidents by fire and water, battles, murders, and other cheerful incidents have been abundantly employed to startle, terrify, and delight. It occurred to a cinematograph firm to do something very special, and they arranged to give representation to an attempt at train wrecking with all the realism possible. 10:30 Down Express, or man-to-man type. The cinematograph proprietor arranged the incidents of the plot, the scene being laid between Purley and South Croydon. The dramatis personae were a signalman, his wife, a dog, a locomotive driver, and 2 ruffians. The ruffians placed some sleepers on the railway metals on the up Brighton line in order to wreck the Brighton Express. A signalman has noted the operations of the wreckers. Leaving his cabin, he dashes up to remove the sleepers, but is seized by the 2 men and bound to the line. Just then, the signalman's dog trots up with his master's dinner in a basket, and, noting the position, as an intelligent dog would do, it hurries back to raise an alarm. The express dashes up, but the signalman's wife arrives at the psychological moment and saves her husband. This was the programme, and, with one exception, everything went as merry as a railway bell. The wreckers did their work. The brave signalman rushed up and was seized and bound. The dog trotted up with the dinner, scented danger, and dashed off to a little cottage hard by. The faithful wife duly appeared, racing up the 6-foot way, and the engine was sighted. But the engine driver nearly made things too realistic. The signalman, played by Mr. William Zeiss with great effect, was nearly killed, for the driver failed to pull up his train as arranged, and the sleepers were sent flying over the track. One of them struck Zeiss on the forehead, and subsequent events interested him no more, for his ribs were smashed, and there was a gaping wound on his head when removed to Croydon Hospital. And that's from the Dundee Evening Telegraph for the 19th of April 1907, and is followed by a slightly later article, Fatal Attempt to Secure a Cinematograph Picture. An inquest on the body of Wilm Zeitz, Clarendon Road, Croydon, the principal actor in the train wrecking scene for the cinematograph picture at Stoat's Rest last week, was held at Croydon yesterday. Mr. Austin, for the railway company, said the affair took place without their knowledge, and the officials concerned were suspended. The idea was that the deceased, acting as a ganger, should discover 3 men putting sleepers across a line, and his dog, seeing his danger, pull the cord of the signal and set it at danger. The train was to stop before reaching the sleepers, but went on and struck the first sleeper, which hit the deceased. The film showed that deceased saw the danger and threw himself in the 4-foot way. Zeitz was dragged about 20 yards. The station master said he had no idea the deceased was going to lie across the line. William Pogram, the driver, said his instructions were to keep out of sight. He ran down the siding at 10 miles an hour and stopped opposite the camera as he was told to do. He did not know of the plot or that the man was on the line. Charles Gorer, who was standing by the camera, said the engine seemed to him to be going too fast. A verdict of accidental death was returned. And that's from the Scotsman for the 23rd of April 1907. I think pretty much everyone involved in that was complicit and should have been held accountable. I don't know how it can have been deemed a verdict of accidental death. The guy was obviously, as we would consider now, doing his own stunts. Nobody lies on a railway line with a train coming at them. Even if you're entirely confident in yourself that you will be able to stand up and get off the line and out the way of the train, anything can happen. Anything can happen. Any slight mistake could mean that train's going to get you. So I don't think they realised that they could film the train travelling and film the guy on the line separately and not have it being done at the same time. I don't know. There's ways they could have avoided that really easily. So there we go. A Wilm Zeitz, martyr to the cause of the cinematograph back in 1907. So there we go. I think we'll have another one. What's this one? The Northern Times and Weekly Journal for Sutherland and the North for the 8th of September 1904. Let's see what this is. This one's horrible, but fortunately very short. Potato bugs stop trains. A vast swarm of potato bugs at Rahway, New Jersey, began migrating across the Public Service Railway Company's tracks. They completely covered the metals for a distance of a mile, being crunched beneath the wheels of the trains, and stopped the cars until loads of sand were spread over them. And that's from the Northern Times and Weekly Journal for the Sutherland and the North for the 8th of September 1904, and that's horrible. We'll just move swiftly on to the next, I think. The Dundee Evening Telegraph for the 12th of November 1904. See what the Dundee Evening Telegraph has. Okay, so it's another railway disaster from America, entitled Railway Disaster in America. 18 killed, 30 injured, New York, Sunday. The mistake of a telegraph operator at Granger, Wyoming early yesterday in sidetracking a goods train for 20 instead of 30 minutes caused a head-on collision with a fast mail train 6 miles from Granger. 18 persons were killed and 30 injured. Every man riding in the engine cabs was killed, a fact which is something unusual in American train accidents and shows that neither train saw the other. Both trains were going at 45 miles an hour. The crash caused a panic among the sleeping passengers, and the sounds of the escaping steam and the crackling and burning woodwork of the demolished cars added to the horrors of the scene. Most of the killed belonged to the train crews. The postal employees were uninjured. The passengers quickly began the work of rescue by extricating those who were pinned down in the wreck. Special trains carried the injured to the nearest hospitals, which were many miles away. And that's from the Morning Leader, as reported in the Dundee Evening Telegraph for the 12th of November 1904. And I have a strong aversion to finishing these with accidents and large tallies of the dead. They were just so common though, railway accidents. My word, just the plethora of them as you go researching for anything else. Just crazy. So we'll have another one in a bid to attempt to end on a slightly more positive note. Hopefully not a death. Let's cross everything for, no deaths. We have the Greenock Telegraph and Clyde Shipping Gazette for the 19th of June 1906. Let's find out. I feel like we already had this one, but apparently not, since it's in the hat. Maybe I just really remember it. So I'm from Greenock originally, so a lot of this article was already quite familiar to me, just the areas mentioned. So we have eccentric doings on Lyle Road. The Lyle Road, on its westernmost parts behind Fort Matilda Station, has been the scene during recent evenings of the antics of a man who behaves in a most irrational manner. His favourite performance is to dance round and round, quite in the style approved by the whirling dervish, and then suddenly stopping, he reverses the movement. A more daring piece of work is his walking backward at a smart pace without the slightest hesitation, and as this is often carried out among the crags and crannies of the steeper parts of the Biggins, it is sufficiently thrilling to those who happen to catch a sight of him. He is an elderly man of a fair height, and although he carries a stick, he appears to have no desire to molest pedestrians. On one occasion, however, he is said to have chased 2 youths down the hill and afterwards encountered them in the Battery Park, from where he ordered them off. He appears to consider the hill at the Lyle Road and the Battery Park his especial property. Even though he is harmless, his conduct is somewhat alarming to evening walkers. And that's from the Greenock Telegraph and Clyde Shipping Gazette for the 19th of June 1906. And I quite like that. It's kind of like a previous article we had on, I want to say Blind Jimmy. It might have been a slightly different name, but it was a guy from like the Cambuslang area who he was a famous pedestrian. He had walked from Cambuslang to London at one point, and the article was purely just about how he had been injured. And it kind of highlighted the kind of characters that you got. Like, every town had that person that everybody knew, They had made themselves stand out for some reason, to the point where they end up getting reported on in the national press. So that's another nice example of that, I think. It's a nice area too, the Lyle Road and down to Battery Park. Well, and that makes for quite a nice wee end to this episode, I think. I'm glad I went on and did a final one. It turned out okay. So we'll be seeing you next time.